sorry you guys. I had an alarm go off on my phone. So this is part 2 of our spelling and vocabulary word definitions video. Okay, so we were talking about idioms, which are figures of speech. Okay, figures of speech are really just like popular sayings in our language. All right, here's an example of one that we were talking about before the video got interrupted. It says, they're trying to make a feast out of crumbs. And like I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted by my alarm, they're not necessarily, whoever is saying this, meaning that there are people who are trying to make an entire feast of a meal out of just little crumbs. What they mean is they're trying to make the best out of a not so great situation, okay? But instead of saying that, they might say, oh, they're trying to make a feast out of crumbs. Here's another example of an idiom. You might have heard of this one before. Ready? Oh, that'll happen when pigs fly. Okay, in other words, someone might say this if they don't actually think something's going to happen, right? Maybe you think that we're going to get a snow day because we're going to get a blizzard, and then there's someone who doesn't really believe that's going to happen, and they might say, oh, that'll happen when pigs fly. Okay, I'm going to hold up the definition for idiom. Pause the screen if you need to, because we are moving on to imagery. Now we're moving out of our figurative language terms into our literary terms. Now, imagery, I'm pretty sure you've already heard me use the phrase descriptive imagery many times, even just within this first full week of school. Full in an interesting way, seeing as you're not necessarily in school every single day, but you know what I mean. So, imagery consists of words or phrases that appeal to a reader's 5 senses. Now, we know that the 5 senses, and if you can't remember what they are, don't worry, I've written them in for you, okay? See, hear, touch, taste, smell, all right? In other words, you are writing in such a beautifully detailed and descriptive way that you as the writer, you're taking into consideration all the different ways you could describe something, okay? And if you describe things in such a way where the reader audience could maybe create such a beautiful mental picture based off of the words you've used that maybe have to do with the taste of something or the smell of something or how something looks or how something feels, you're being super, super descriptive, in other words. You're writing with that beautiful detail we talk about, okay? Here's an example. I wrote this when I was hungry. It's probably going to make me hungry again. The delicious pancakes with maple syrup and crispy bacon filled the house with a yummy scent. Ooh. Instead of saying the breakfast smelled good, you could write like this. And that gives your reader audience a better mental picture because you've used more imagery. The word image means like a picture or a photo, right? Well, you want to create a mental picture for your reader by using imagery. You can pause the screen if you need more time. Here's our next word. Irony. Maybe you've heard this word before, maybe you haven't, okay? Now, irony, we might say, oh, that's super ironic, or oh, isn't that some irony? When the opposite of what is expected or what we expect to happen actually occurs. When the opposite of what is expected occurs. Now, here's an example of irony, or here's the example of an ironic situation. An airplane pilot being afraid of heights. Well, wouldn't that be the opposite of what you expect? Because pilots have to fly high, right? So you probably wouldn't expect a pilot to be scared of heights. Here's another example. A firehouse burning down. Not that we would ever want that to happen, okay? But you wouldn't expect a firehouse, a place that puts out fires, to burn down. So we might say, oh, that's ironic. Okay? When the opposite of what is expected occurs. Next word. Illusion, not illusion with an I, illusion with an A. This is different, Okay? Sounds a lot alike, different. So an allusion is a reference to a famous or a very well-known person or place or event or work, job, or an animal, something that's very, very well known. So you're referencing something that is very famous or very well known in your society, okay? Here's the example I came up with. We have a math class full of Einsteins. What famous, in this case, person am I referring to? I'm referring to Einstein, and we know that Einstein was very, very good with math. So what I mean by that is, oh, we've got a class full of great math students, okay? Allusion with an A. A reference to a famous or well-known person or place or event or work or job or animal, something that is very well known, okay? Pause the screen if you need to, because we're going to flip to the next. And we're on our last two, and you guys are troopers, because between the first video and the second one, it's been a bit of a minute, right? But you're doing really well. Thank you very much for your patience. The next word is foreshadowing. Ooh, this is such a good one. Authors love to foreshadow in what they write. And since we are going to be writers this year as well with a whole bunch of different things we write, there's going to be times when we will not only be reading and identifying foreshadowing in novels, but we will also be trying to write foreshadowing as well with other projects we're going to get to down the line. Okay? So foreshadowing is when the author provides like hints, clues about what is going to happen later on, okay? I'm gonna cover up that bottom definition so it doesn't confuse you, okay? Foreshadowing, when an author provides hints or clues about something that will happen later on. Kind of makes you have to be a little bit of a detective to see if you can pick up on those hints or clues as you're reading. And I put an example. There are multiple examples, but I just put one that came to mind. A storm that is brewing. A lot of time if you're reading a story, or maybe even watching a movie or a show, have you ever noticed that sometimes authors or writers, they kind of have storms, whether it's like just bad weather that comes through, and that almost represents, ooh, perhaps some not good stuff for the characters involved in the story might be on the way, and that's represented through like a storm brewing, okay? So that's the example I have here. A storm that is brewing. The increasingly bad weather could hint at something bad that will happen to characters in a story. Pause the video if you need to. Here's the final word. We did it, okay? Flashback. Ooh, I bet you're all going, oh wait, I've heard of that. I know what that is. Flashback, okay? A flashback, if you are reading something or if you're the one doing the writing, it's an interruption in the story's action, whatever's going on. It's an interruption to bring up past events, things that happened back when, hence flashback. Okay, so it's an interruption in the story's action to bring up past events to the reader or the listener. Okay? Flashback, right here. An interruption in the story's action to bring up past events to the reader and listener. Now, here's my example. Maybe some of you can relate to this, okay? Perhaps in a story, or like a movie you're watching or a show you're watching, when a character goes to an amusement park, they stop and they have a moment where they remember a time in the past when they had gotten scared and like gotten sick on a roller coaster when they were little. And that happened years ago, but they're remembering it now in that moment. Okay, so if the author includes something like that, they pause the current action to bring up something that happened in the past. That is an example of a flashback. So if you need to, pause the screen so you can get the whole definition as well as the example for flashback. Okay, so those are our 12 words for our very first spelling and vocabulary list. Make sure that you're taking time to study the spelling of these words this week, as well as be mindful to study and remember the definitions for each one of these words, okay? They're going to be coming up not just this coming week or this week, but all year long. So it's really important that we know what each one is. Okay, we're going to be working with them a lot this year in 6th grade. So best of luck. Thank you very much for watching both parts of this video. Like I said, I'm sorry it got broken up into 2 parts, but happy working, my dears. Bye.